Hi, Dennis Rivers. This is Dan Kimball. We're here live for another Google Hangouts where we're introducing our social entrepreneurs from around the world. Dennis Rivers is a very successful social entrepreneur in the area of communication, compassionate communication skills. And I'd like to introduce Dennis and the series of 7 workshops we're going to be doing with Dennis over the next few weeks.
I'm happy to be here.
Oh, we don't have Dennis.
I'm happy to be here.
Okay, there we go. Good, Dennis. Well, thank you. Is he broadcast now? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll edit this down a little bit, but
okay.
Dennis,
Sound check. Can you hear me okay now?
Yes, we're hearing you just fine. Are you getting any echo?
I'm getting a slight amount of echo, but it's far in the background, so it's not distracting me.
Okay, I'll turn you down even more. But good. Well, Dennis, can you tell us a little bit about, first of all, about the 7 challenges and what this communication skills that you've developed is really all about?
Well, I got fascinated by communication skills, and one in the 1980s and 1990s, and I eventually did a master's degree in interpersonal communication. And one of the interesting things for me was that there were thousands of pieces of good advice about how to communicate. And it gradually dawned on me that nobody could have a conversation while juggling thousands of pieces of good advice in their mind. So there had to be some way of ranking, well, of all those thousands of pieces of wonderful advice, which are the ones that are really the most important? And that project became the 7 Challenges workbook, because the 7 challenges are not the only pieces of good advice about how to communicate more effectively with other people, but they're probably the 7 best starting places.
Wonderful. So Dennis, these 7 areas that we've identified here are really useful for all kinds of communications, right? I mean, I know we as entrepreneurs here are interested in a couple of areas where we need to communicate well with our customers, or we need to communicate well with our team to make sure that we're organizing well. But how can this stuff be applied?
Well, let's just take challenge number 1, which is to listen more carefully and more responsively. Many times we walk into a situation and we have something that we want to tell people, and we may be so full of what we want to tell people we're not paying much attention to what's going on with them. So if you listen first, you set the stage for other people to listen to you. If you open up a conversation by asking what's happening with other people and let them express whatever's on their mind, they're going to be much more inclined to listen to what you have to say. So well, I think that there's a special element in that about saying a little something. If another person presents their point of view, if you can summarize it in just a sentence, just a few words, to confirm to that person that you've understood what they said, what they were saying, that makes an enormous difference to the speaker, to the person who's talking to you.
Right, so you're talking about stating a little bit about, well, asking, first of all, what is it that you have to communicate here, and then listening to that communication and then having some little confirmation that this is what I heard.
Right, right. So if you were trying to sell me a new antenna and you made you talked about your antenna to me, I'd say, okay, well, I hear that you are really confident about your antenna. You think it's the greatest antenna in the world, and you want us to buy 7 million of them. Now, then you see, then you're saying, okay, he got the message. Now, I might be able to come back and say, listen, that's really great, Dan. You know, you're pricing your antennas at twice what other people are selling them for. So help me figure out how it is that I'm going to be able to buy these antennas from you. That is to say, once I've acknowledged what you have to say, then you're going to be more interested in trying to meet me halfway.
Yeah, I understand.
And that includes not only just listening and saying, uh-huh, uh-huh. It also includes this little summary that I actually try and summarize in a fair and friendly way what's on your mind.
Okay, yeah, no, that's very interesting, Dennis. I think what we're getting at here is that there are a set of steps for communicating that if you follow these steps, you'll probably get a lot further along than you would be if you hadn't understood and practiced these skills of communicating in these orders. So there's, I think what you described them as 7 different challenges, or seven
different
steps.
Challenges. One of my great teachers, Marshall Rosenberg, said that compassionate communication is about getting more of what you want for reasons you won't regret later.
That's wonderful. Yeah, okay,
because
so
you're not pushing people. You're trying to arrange a win-win, where everybody gets more of their needs met.
Wonderful. Well, we're trying to
challenge number one. Challenge number one is listening more carefully and more responsively, giving voice to what you've understood. And then challenge number 2 is a really crucial issue, and that has to do with explaining your conversational intent and inviting the consent of the other person. If I just walk up to you and I start a conversation, you have no idea whether I want to talk to you for 20 seconds or 10 hours. So I'm not helping you cooperate with me because I haven't described the conversation that I want to have. I could walk up to you and say, "Hey, Abdul, I'd really like to talk to you for about 5 minutes to get the schedule for next week worked out." And then you'd say, okay, let's do it. Or you might say, "I'm really busy, Dennis. Can you come back at 5 o'clock? I'm allowing you to, I'm declaring my intent and I'm inviting your consent. I'm treating you as a full partner in the conversation, and I'm not implying that you owe it to me to drop everything that you are doing right this second and respond to my request." So it's a more respectful way of making a conversational overture.
Yes.
The more important the conversation is, if I really need to talk to you for 5 hours about next year's budget, then it's really important for me to start my conversation by saying, "Hey, Dan, I need to talk to you for 5 hours to work out these 57 spreadsheets. So how are we going to do this?" And then you're going to say, "Wow, Dennis, all right, well, let's see. I can work you in maybe on Tuesday afternoon or something." I'm allowing you to work with me to create a win-win solution. I'm giving up the element of surprise, and because if I just walk up to you and start talking, you'll feel socially obligated to respond because I've kind of surprised you. I've started a conversation without asking your permission, and you'll probably feel out of politeness that you have to talk to me. But I'm suggesting you give up that surprise element and not use it in order to bamboozle people into having conversations. That we declare our intent and invite the consent of others, because then they'll be much more willing to do a better job of partnering with us. So that's challenge number 2.
Okay, so on to the next step. Dennis, you're going to do a whole series of sessions with us, and each of these are going to be detailed in each session.
Right.
So,
and we'll do some exercises.
Wonderful.
On the stage of the world, we'll do some little exercises too.
Great. So can you go on to step 3? What is that? Can you tell us briefly what that is?
Well, human communication is pulled between clarity and brevity. We always want to say more to clarify things, but we're always trying to say it quicker and faster and quicker and faster. So everybody starts developing little shorthand, short codes to communicate with each other, where they just drop hints. They leave out a lot of the details. Like, somebody shows up at the front door, and I turn to you and I say, "Your 3 o'clock is here." What am I saying? I'm saying the person who made an appointment for you at 3 o'clock is here. But I've left out a lot of I've left out a lot of the details. Human communication depends on leaving out a lot of the details most of the time until circumstances change. Then you need to shift gears and bring back in the details that you're so used to leaving out, and it works so well all the time.
All right.
And
Well,
so when you express yourself more clearly and more completely, instead of just, if I see an accident on the street, instead of saying, wow, that's awful, I say something like, wow, when I saw that car smash into the bus, I got so angry and unhappy because we've been negotiating with the city council to get a new signal on that intersection for 6 months. And I want to go back to the city council and tell those people they've got to put a signal on that intersection. Now, all of that was wrapped up inside that was awful. But when I said that was awful, there was no way for you to know all those other things. So in Challenge 3, we use something called the 5 I messages. What I saw, how I feel about it, what evaluations of mine were underneath the feelings, what I want to happen in the future, and what I'm going to request from you in order to make those things happen. So I'm going to say, instead of saying, God, that just makes me sick watching that, seeing that accident, I'm going to say, Dan, when I saw that accident, I got so upset because I know we've been working on that issue, and now I want to press that issue forward with the City Council. And will you come with me next Tuesday to the City Council meeting? See, there I'm saying, I'm giving you those 5 things. So in our exercises, we'll actually look at that list of the 5 I messages.
Yeah.
Leaving out the details is fine. Most of the time, it's fine until it isn't fine. It's like circumstances change, and then we have to shift gears and give our conversation partners the details they need in order to cooperate with us.
Well, I think that's an important issue, especially here in Malaysia. I have some difficulty with that because we carry with us different contexts for communication, and there's oftentimes a context that's different here than it is, where I grew up and what I'm used to. And so I miss, or maybe I'll leave out a bunch of details that I should be reading in, or not hear some details that are being left out of the conversations here. So it has to do with the cultural differences as well, and
yes,
in mind the context of these assumptions that we make all around us.
So the 5 I messages are a really great way of bridging cultural gaps because they become like a little mental do list. When you're a pilot taking off an airplane, you have a checkoff list, and you have these little boxes. You have to check this meter and check that engine and check that aileron. And you don't take off the plane until you've checked all the boxes. Well, conversations could be the same way. We need a little checkoff list in order to make sure we've covered all the essentials. That raises the chances of succeeding in the conversation.
Wonderful. Okay, great. Can we go on to the next step?
Yeah. So Challenge 4 kind of grows out of Challenge 3 about expressing yourself more clearly and completely. But Challenge 4 is an example of that is so important. It sort of needed an umbrella of its own. It needed a place of its own. And that is translating criticisms and complaints into requests. When we complain to people, we are, without realizing it, casting them in the role of a problem maker. And people don't like being cast in the role of a problem maker. And we can do that with our tone of voice. Like, wow, I saw those tools left out on the floor. Like, what sort of idiot would leave the tools on the floor where everybody else can trip on them? We're looking toward the past, and we're casting our conversation partner as a problem maker. What we want to do is we want to look toward the future and cast our conversation partner as a problem solver. Even if they've messed up 100 times, we don't want to shame and embarrass them because we need their cooperation. And people who've been shamed and embarrassed won't be able to mobilize their resources to cooperate with us. They'll be too busy trying to kind of keep their emotional inner balance. So this translate your criticisms and complaints into a request is a crucial way of getting that other person, back on the team. So instead of saying, what sort of idiot would leave the tools on the floor, I could say something like, wow, I see the tools on the floor. How can we arrange some new standards here at the shop so the tools always get put away? See, I'm changing my complaint into a request.
Yeah.
You know, complaints are kind of like scratching poison oak. I don't know whether they have poison oak in Malaysia. Poison oak is it's a plant, and when it gets on your skin, it makes terrible itches. And the problem is that if you scratch the itches, they get even worse. So if somebody's made a big mistake and you criticize them in a negative sort of way, you actually make the situation worse rather than better, even though it might feel good for a few seconds.
Yeah, okay. Wonderful. So, yeah, I can see how that's an important part of this, making sure that you're not creating more friction and you're resolving the friction as you go along, if there is any.
Right. Now, Challenge 5 kind of is an example, kind of grows out of that, and Challenge 5 is something that you can learn this in a minute and it can change your life. It can change all the conversations that you have for the rest of your life. And that's shifting from asking closed-ended questions, yes-no questions, like, are you enjoying this presentation? Yes or no? To asking open-ended questions where you say, how much are you enjoying this presentation? How much is this presentation meeting your needs? How comfortable are you with the presentation as it's going on now? So I'm going to do that with you right this second. Abdul, how comfortable are you with the presentation as it's unfolding this afternoon?
So far, I'm learning a lot. I've learned a lot of new points and a lot of new ideas. So it's going great, yeah.
Now you see, if I just said, Abdul, do you like this or not? And you said yes or no. Whether you said yes or no, I wouldn't be learning very much, because that's like a binary signal. It's the least amount of information in the entire universe, yes or no. So sometimes yes or no questions might be appropriate, but there's a lot of times when we need more information from people. So we want to ask questions in a way that opens people up rather than shuts them up. You know, let's say you've made a whole new plan for the office, and you walk in and you ask me, well, Dennis, do you like this new plan? And I say, sure. You know that there's more going on there. That's not enough of an answer. See, if you said, Dennis, all right, how do you like this new plan that we've made? What do you see as the strong points and the weaknesses of it? Then you'd get a lot more information out of me, and that information might be really valuable in helping you improve the plan. So that's Challenge 5. Ask questions more open-endedly and more creatively. Now, Challenge 6 has to do with expressing more appreciation. We use our minds every day to repair things that have broken. Things break down, we look, we try to see what's broken and how it's fixed. And because we have to do that so much, it's really easy to get stuck in life only seeing what's broken. Meanwhile, there's a lot of stuff in life that's beautiful, and the people around us do a lot of their work really well. But they're not getting any reinforcement from us because we're busy looking for the things that are broken. So I'm inviting people with Challenge 6 to rethink the level of gratitude in their life and become kind of systematically committed to thanking all the people in their lives who do a good job. Now, the classic management arrangement is management by exception. You say what the goal is, and you punish anybody who doesn't meet the goal. Now, the problem with that is the people who work really hard to meet the goal don't get very much attention. And they'll eventually quit and go somewhere else where they get more recognition. So you don't want to drive out all your good employees and get left with a factory full of rule breakers, which will tend to happen if you do that management by exception scheme. So for building a team, it's so important to recognize the good work that our people are doing, and for building a family, it's equally as important at home. If somebody cooks you a wonderful meal, say, "Thank you so much for fixing me this wonderful meal."
Yes,
what do you think of that, guys?
This is a very good point. In fact, Sir Richard Branson and his discussions about entrepreneurship emphasizes this about how important it is one of the most key elements to entrepreneuring success is to praise the people around you for the good work that they've done. So that's a fabulous lesson to learn. I think each one of these probably has a gem, has a nugget that we're hoping to convey to our audiences on each of these 7 sessions. So what were we on Challenge 6 now?
Challenge 6. We're ready for Challenge 7, which kind of wraps it all up. Challenge 7 is implied in the earlier 6, but Challenge 7 says, adopt the learning attitude. Rather than seeing yourself as having a fixed number of talents, either you're a clever person or you're a slow person, either you're a talented person or you're just a nobody, those ways of looking at yourself are not very creative. So if you see yourself as learning, then you can put learning new communication skills on your lifetime do list. And the Toyota became the best automobile company in the world by emphasizing continuous improvement, which means every single time something goes wrong, rather than trying to punish somebody, you try to learn what happened and how can we make it better. Well, we could apply that to our own lives. Rather than seeing ourselves as just a fixed, like a statue made out of clay or marble, that we're a fixed person with a fixed number of qualities, we could think of our life as being a journey toward the light, a journey toward more skill, more knowledge. If you have a fixed image of yourself and you do a bad job at something, that implies that you're a failure. If you have the growth attitude about yourself and you make a mistake, that implies that you have something to learn. But there's no shame in having something to learn. So we really, especially in fast-changing technologies that actually depend on beta testing and things breaking down, you really want to help people make that transition toward the learning attitude rather than the honor and shame attitude, which implies a fixed person.
Right. These 7 challenges might be, re-termed the 7 principles of success, really, in entrepreneurship. This last one about continuous improvement is something we use constantly in our business model canvases. We really call it continuous innovation, but it's really change and learning. How do you change something that you've done wrong, and listen carefully for what's broken so that you can fix it. There's a
wonderful book about this. I do want to, as a scholar, I do want to have at least one book recommendation in this little talk. It's called the book is called Mindset, M-I-N-D-S-E-T, and it's by a Stanford psychology professor, Carol Dweck, D-W-E-C-K, and it is a hilarious, wonderful book about shifting from the fixed talent attitude to the ongoing learning attitude. And Carol Dweck actually gives classes for high schoolers to help high schoolers make the transition, because high schoolers are so vulnerable to shame and feeling that they're a failure. And it's a really miraculous book, but she uses examples from sports and from business, and so it's in the 20 years that I've been doing this, Carol Dweck's book is the best book that I've found to explain the focus on learning, Challenge 7.
Well, Dennis, thank you so much for coming to introduce this topic to us. I'm sure that Alice Dweck's book, Mindset, should...
Carol Dweck.
Carol Dweck. will help us have some examples for how to apply some of this material in our everyday lives.
To build a better innovation center.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. I'm sorry we're run out of time for today, but I'm hoping you'll all join us for our 7 Challenges series. We're putting this together as a series of 7 weekly events here at the Venture Creation Cafe. We hope you can join us either in person, preferably in person, where we can have coffee and tea and cakes and refreshments and food while we discuss this with Dennis live from Marin County, California. And for those of you who can't join us, you can also join us on the web live as well. And if you have some particular questions you want to ask, let us know beforehand, prior, that you can be a participant, and we'll invite you to the Google Hangouts as well and see if we can't engage you in the conversation. So please join us. Dennis, thank you again for hosting us with this event, and I look forward to having you with us here live.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Bye for now.
Bye. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you, Dennis.